Hi YouTube. Just wanted to do a quick little video about getting dahlias started in the spring. A lot more people are starting to do cut flower gardens. There are a lot of wonderful varieties of dahlias available now, and some people just still have a little bit of trouble getting them going for a bit of an earlier flowering period. If you just wait until May long weekend or whatever the appropriate weekend is in your planting area, here in the Pacific Northwest, it's usually Mother's Day or May long weekend, and plant some dahlia tubers in the ground, you will likely get some fantastic flowers, but they're probably not going to start until a little later in the season, maybe late July, August, or sometimes even as late as September, depending on how things are doing. If you have a greenhouse or a growing space or even some area under lights or a warm room that you use for plants, you can get them started a lot earlier. What I'll often do, here we are, we're around May long weekend, and I've got some dahlias that I potted up a little bit earlier. These ones were probably done in April. I'm already putting out a nice big plant. As soon as this gets into the garden, it's going to take off and be nice and big and bushy, and starting them a bit earlier and starting them with a bit of heat in the greenhouse is how I'll often end up having flowers for mid-June instead of mid-July or mid-August. So it can be a really great time saver. And just because they start flowering a little bit earlier doesn't mean that they don't last as long as normal. So instead of just getting flowers from the beginning of August until frost, I'm getting flowers from mid-June until frost. They'll just keep on going. So what we'll do is we'll take our tuber. I've got a mix here. It's mostly just like a Pro Mix or Sunshine Mix. Nice simple potting soil. And I sometimes will add a bit of compost or a bit of manure. It's not super important at this stage. I'll often also, as I did in this case, add some perlite, which is an expanded volcanic type rock. It's basically like popped rock. It's nice and light, and it adds a little bit of a gritty nature to your potting mix. It helps it crumble, makes it a little bit lighter, and a little bit more retentive of air as well as just moisture. So we'll take our pot, and you can use whatever size the tubers will fit in nicely. Fill it most of the way up here. And this tuber is going to have to go on a bit of an angle. So we want the crown of the plant, as you can see here. We want the tubers aren't where the growth will come from. It'll be where the crown is, where they're all joined together. So the crown of the plant up. And I will just wedge them into a pot, you know, with the crown at one side or something like that. It's not super important. They're not going to grow in here forever. They're just getting a start. And then I'll fill in around, give it a little shake and tap down. You don't want to break any tubers off in the process if you can avoid it. And I'll just bury it up to the crown there. When they're going in the garden, I'll often put them just a touch deeper, but this will give me an idea when they started growing. Always make sure you pop a label into the pot just so that you know what variety you're dealing with. And fairly quickly, you'll start to see some nice growth appearing as you do on this one. And you could pot it out into the garden at this stage, but also if you need to keep it a little bit longer, it's perfectly fine to have your starts looking like this to go out into the garden. They'll be a little bit earlier for you that way. And also, you can make sure that they're all growing. Even if you buy tubers that have good eyes, there's always the chance something can happen. I had a couple plants that started growing this year and then rotted away. I was able to save them by taking some cuttings of the fresh growth that was still above ground, as I saw that things were starting to suffer a bit and realized that everything under the ground was starting to rot. But that way I've not planted a plant out in the garden, dedicated some space to it only to have it fail. This way I know any of the ones that I'm putting out are going to be good. Thanks YouTube, take care.